I reconnected with a girl I had broken up with due to an incident back in school. But when I met her again, there was a scar on her face. Reconnecting with her, despite the scar, changed my life dramatically. I, Mason Moore, at the age of 28, was dumped by my fiancée 6 months ago. Even though we were in the midst of wedding preparations, she broke off our engagement. The reason was my fiancée Camilla's infidelity. But I don't know if you can call it infidelity, since she said, "My love for him is real." During our talks, my fiancée was sobbing. "Do you really love me? I don't feel any love from you, Mason." I couldn't respond to Camilla, who said this. I thought I loved Camilla. But even when I found out about her infidelity, or when our engagement was broken off, I didn't cry or cling to her. I was never so shocked that I couldn't get food down my throat. I had decided to get married just because I thought it was about time, given my age. When Camilla broke up with me, all I said was a few short words. "I understand. Please take care of the compensation and the wedding cancellation fee." Upon hearing that, Camilla threw a glass of water at me and yelled, "You're the worst, trash, inhuman." But I was the one who got dumped, right? I almost said that, but I stopped myself, as it would only add fuel to the fire. I've had other lovers besides that fiancé, but they were all pretty much the same. "You don't really love me, do you? Do you even want to be in a relationship?" I've been told things like that, and we broke up. It's probably not the women's fault. I understand. The problem is with me. I fell in love in high school that I can't forget. Since then, I haven't found anyone I can love as much as I loved her in high school. The name of that high school girlfriend is Nora Anderson. Rather than being beautiful, she had big eyes and cute dimples when she smiled. She was cheerful and lively, always surrounded by friends. As for me, I was just an ordinary high school boy. I wasn't energetic enough to fool around, but I don't think I had a gloomy personality either. The reason I and Nora got close, who was the most popular girl in the class and too ordinary me, was a school event. We were assigned to the same task for the event. Through talking, I learned that Nora, like me, came from a single-parent household. I was in my rebellious phase back then, and I found my worrying mother annoying. I blamed her for our lack of money and our hard life, and we fought constantly. But Nora was different. She cared deeply for her mother, and seemed to think that helping each other was natural, even if life was tough. Talking to Nora, who thought this way, made me feel childish and uncool for being rebellious. As I talked and spent time with Nora, my attitude towards my mother softened, and the tension between us disappeared. My resentment towards adults and my anger at being potent completely vanished, but being with Nora made me feel lighter. Nora and I were together from the end of our freshman year to our senior year of high school. I vaguely thought that we would always be together and maybe get married someday. But we broke up right before exams. If one of us had found someone else, or if we had started to dislike each other, I might have forgotten about my love for Nora quickly. But there was a reason Nora and I broke up. I couldn't accept that reason at all, so maybe that's why I can't forget about Nora, even 10 years later. After becoming a working adult, I heard from a high school friend that Nora had married an elite businessman and was a stay-at-home wife. I was relieved that she was happy, but I remember feeling empty because I was the only one still hung up on Nora. But now, at 28, I can't keep in touch with her or see her or talk to her. I thought that my unresolved feelings for her would continue to smolder in my arms. It was on an afternoon when the company was closed that things changed. I had spent the whole morning living a lazy life and finally got out of bed in the early afternoon and took my suit to the dry cleaners. But this was a weekday, and my usual dry cleaner was closed for the day. I had no particular preference for that store, so I visited a different dry cleaner than usual. As I stood in front of the register, I stopped in my tracks when I saw the clerk. Though she was wearing a mask, Her eyes and features looked just like my high school sweetheart, Nora, whom I had parted ways with. But surely, after 10 years, I wouldn't expect to randomly bump into her. I assumed that I had only thought it was Nora because I had been reminiscing about our high school days and saw a woman who resembled her. But then I saw Nora's name clearly written on her name tag. Our eyes met, and I was sure. "Nora, is that you?" Nora nodded slightly in response to my question. Even with her mask on, I could see her eyes narrowing as she smiled. "Mason, long time no see." Her laughter and voice were unmistakably Nora's. My unforgettable first love. But Nora still had the same last name as in high school. And there was no ring on her left hand. But I knew that suddenly asking "Did you get divorced?" would be incredibly rude. "Nora, what are you doing here?" "I work here, dry cleaning. Can I take it?" Realizing I had been staring at Nora, holding onto my suit, I finally handed it over. Nora took the suit and processed it. All the while, she carried the conversation for me, who couldn't say a word. "Nice suit. You must work for a great company. Wow, Mason, you've grown up." "Nah, I'm just a regular office worker." "You live around here?" "I'm about a 10-minute walk away. I live nearby too." Talking to Nora for the first time in 10 years was a bit nerve-wracking. Though her appearance was that of a mature and beautiful woman, her way of speaking was as bright and lively as during our student days. That's what I had loved about her. I wanted to ask her various things, but unfortunately, another customer arrived. I was just a customer at a dry cleaning place. I had to leave without getting in Nora's way. But noticing my downcast expression, Nora waved to me and said, "The reunion, you coming?" I wasn't planning to go, but I heard our old teacher is retiring, so I think I should go since he helped me out so much. I immediately jumped at the opportunity. I had initially planned to skip the reunion, but my close friends had insisted that I come this time, so I reluctantly agreed. "I'm going to the reunion too." At the sound of my loud voice, Nora chuckled. "Then, let's talk more at that time." I nodded and quickly left the dry cleaner. I had heard that Nora hadn't attended the reunions before, and even this time, the organizer said she would be absent. I had given up on ever seeing her again, but I was overjoyed at the prospect of meeting and talking to her again. The day of the reunion arrived, and Nora came to the venue, still wearing a mask. I had thought she might have had a cold when I saw her at the dry cleaner, but I wondered why she was still wearing a mask this day. I was watching Nora from a distance, but she noticed me looking and waved at me. I thought this was my chance to talk to Nora and approached her, but there was someone who spoke to Nora before me. Natalie Jackson, wearing a flashy colored dress. Natalie had always dyed her hair and wore short skirts, even in her student days, and that vibe hadn't changed as an adult. Grinning, Natalie spoke to Nora in an exaggeratedly loud voice. "Nora, what's with that mask? Could that rumor actually be true?" I could hear the sarcasm in her voice. Ever since her school days, Natalie had a nasty habit of speaking ill of others or belittling the popular girl, Nora, in the class. But this time, I was really curious about the rumor Natalie was talking about. The classmates around us were whispering too. Looking at the crowd, Natalie said with satisfaction, "Did you all hear? Nora, she divorced her elite businessman husband. And here she was, enjoying the rich life with her wealthy husband, and now she's been dumped, right?" I was enraged by her spiteful tone. This was not something to talk about in front of everyone. I approached Natalie and spoke up. "Hey, stop it. Don't talk about someone's personal life in front of so many people." Natalie glared at me, seemingly annoyed that I had defended Nora. "What's the big deal? It's the truth. My boyfriend works at the same company as Nora's ex-husband. It seems to be the talk of the office. Apparently, Nora's ex-husband is lamenting. He feels like he paid for defective goods, having such a disappointing wife. If that was true, then her ex-husband was a real jerk too. No matter the reason for the divorce, spreading it around the company and among acquaintances is just wrong. Divorced and broke, living in poverty, what's with that mask? Can't afford makeup. Saying this, Natalie forcibly removed Nora's mask. Stop it. Nora tried to turn away, but it was too late. Natalie had taken off her mask. But the next moment, silence enveloped the room. Even Natalie, the person who had taken off the mask, was at a loss for words, looking beneath Nora's mask. There was a large scar running from Nora's cheek to rear, a thin and long cut. Elongated scar like a cut. Whether it was due to time or makeup, the scar had blended in with her skin color. But it couldn't be completely hidden. What's with that scar? It's disgusting. Hearing Natalie's murmur, the people around didn't openly raise their voices, but they were clearly disturbed. I couldn't bear it, so I grabbed Nora's hand and took her to the balcony. When we reached the empty balcony, Nora looked at me and said, "Thank you." Honestly, it was uncomfortable being in that room, but I guess everyone would be shocked to see such a scar. Nora said this as she put her mask back on. It didn't suit Nora to say such a thing in a self-deprecating way, and it made me a little sad. "Can I ask about that scar? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to." Nora then told me about her married life. The man she married became abusive after they were wed. It was a daily occurrence for him to say things that would put Nora down, and it seems that she was constantly being told things that would negate her character. But Nora endured it for years. Having only a high school education and being a full-time housewife, she was worried about her financial independence. During this time, her mother's illness worsened and she collapsed. Though her mother was dependent on her boyfriend and seemed helpless when Nora was in high school, Nora's mother had turned her life around after becoming ill. She had worked hard, and together they supported each other. But even after being hospitalized, her condition didn't improve, and she passed away. "I'm sorry for all the trouble until now, but I want you to be happy." Those were Nora's mother's last words. Hearing them, Nora decided to divorce. Her mother's wish for her happiness gave her the push she needed. The scar was inflicted by her husband when she brought up the divorce. Thinking about all of Nora's hardships made me incredibly sad. But seeing me like that, Nora lightly tapped my back. "Don't look so down. I'm happy to be free now that I'm divorced. Just like Mom wanted, I'm looking for happiness. I don't have the courage yet, but I have a goal to someday take off this mask and walk proudly." Seeing that intense look in Nora's eyes, I remembered the time we parted ways in high school. Nora's mom was the type who depended on her boyfriend. Nora always came second to her, and she often ended up giving her money to men. But Nora managed her mother's earnings and even worked part-time jobs, trying hard to save up for college application fees. However, just before the exams, she found out that her mother had spent the money meant for the exams. At about the same time, her mother's illness was discovered, and Nora's mom was dumped by the boyfriend she had been financially supporting. Despite having such a terrible mother, Nora said she would give up on her exams and work to support her mother. Of course, I was totally against it. "That mother of yours is awful, just leave her." I remember saying that. I thought she should just leave her mother, live alone, save some money, and go to college, even if she had to take out student loans. But Nora didn't abandon her mother. "She's my only family," she said. I understood how Nora felt, but I just couldn't agree with her. Looking back, I realized how childish I was. I was so dazzled by Nora's efforts to support her family, and felt so inferior because I couldn't do anything, that Nora and I grew apart. And we eventually broke up. As my high school memories faded, the 28-year-old Nora in front of me took off her mask. A scar was revealed under the mask. Under the mask, It's quite something, isn't it? I looked back into Nora's eyes firmly. Yeah, but this here is even more amazing, I said, pointing to Nora's heart. You're still as strong as you were in school, if not stronger. You've supported your family, found the courage to escape from violence, and you're still looking forward even though you've been hurt. Nora smiled, looking a little shy at my words. Thank you, but you're the same, aren't you, Mason? I didn't understand what Nora meant, so I waited for her next words. You were cool even back in school, Mason. Remember when you defended me from my friends when they teased me about my mom? And just now, you were the only one to take me away when people were talking about my scar. You have always been kind, Mason. It was the first time I realized that there was kindness in me. I had thought of myself as an indecisive guy who was neither serious about work nor love. I never even considered that I could be kind to others. I remember when we were dating in school, we used to hold hands a lot. Do you remember? Of course, I remembered. Nora and I used to share our anxieties and little joys and happiness by holding hands. I gently held Nora's hand. Her hand was just as small and white as it had been 10 years ago. I almost cried at the warmth I felt after 10 years, but I held back. I told my current situation to Nora, holding her hand. That I couldn't get serious about love or work. That I was living without any goals. That's why my engagement was called off. I wasn't looking for advice or comfort. I just wanted Nora to listen. I wanted her to know who I am now, even if it meant only exposing my pathetic self. After listening, Nora smiled a little. You're still careless when it comes to yourself. Let me, your first girlfriend, tell you something good. I nodded, enchanted by Nora's smile. You, Mason, can work harder and have more fun when you think of others rather than yourself. So how about trying hard for me from now on? I thought I'd like to be together with you again after our reunion, Mason. What do you think? We had somehow understood each other's feelings since we held hands. I love you, Nora. I've loved you all these 10 years. Nora blushed at my confession. Then work hard to be with me. Will you love me seriously? As for work, I want you, Mason, to be devoted to a job you're passionate about. Living a self-indulgent life is a waste. Let's think about our future so that we can live our lives laughing together. I nodded at those words. From now on, my life won't be alone, and just thinking that made me feel somehow optimistic. From that day, Nora and I started dating again. The first thing we did was job hunting. I had been aimlessly doing a job I didn't want to do, and at work, there was my former fiancée. I didn't really care and continued working as I was, but I wanted to make a break from the unmotivated days and life I had been living. Although the salary was a bit lower at my new job, I found a sense of purpose. Since starting dating with Nora, my private life also became fulfilling. Before, on my days off, I used to shut myself in without even opening the curtains, but I began to go out more by accompanying Nora in her hobby of hiking. I even gained a little muscle and became interested in healthy eating. 2 years after we started dating, Nora and I got married, and now we have a child and live together as a family of 3. Nora's facial scars have faded, and she's not wearing a mask now. Her emotional scars have healed, and she's enjoying raising our child. Recently, I received a report from Nora that she's pregnant with our second child. I want to make a lively and fun family, don't I? Looking at Nora's smiling face, I naturally smiled too. She keeps bringing me happiness one after another. But I don't just want to be happy, I want to be someone who can make her happy too. Before I reunited with Nora, I couldn't imagine such happy days. Our reunion changed my life. I want to cherish the happy times with my family without forgetting my gratitude to her. How was today's story? Your channel subscription and hitting the like button will be an encouragement for our creative activities. We look forward to receiving comments from you. See you in the next